Not to have slides. This is like the toughest 5 minutes to prepare for ever because you don't know what people are going to be interested in, what they know. If you ask my 12-year-old triplets what I do for a living, yeah.
You just said what you do for a
I
living.
did, yeah. They will say I'm a teacher, I'm a professional geek, and a lot of people know who I am online. Like that's what they understand about what I do because I have so many roles. So I teach social media marketing at Kelly, though my PhD is in rhetoric. I teach marketing having never taken a marketing course. Way to work it, right? I'm actually no longer an executive ed. I'm now the director of learning technologies at Kelly. So I'm in charge of helping faculty and students make the best use of the technologies we have to do more collaborative learning, more effective learning, to measure learning better, using technology in the middle of all that. And my research really centers on how communities of people self-organize and use kind of constructivist methods of information sharing to express their expertise to get things done, which is the fancy way of saying they play games and solve puzzles together through intrinsic motivation. They're not paid to do it. They do it because they want to, right? And so on the side of the teaching and the research and the mom of craziness, I also design games for corporate learning and for research. So I design things like alternate reality games where I've got people running all over town solving puzzles and tweeting at each other, you know, to put people off the scent of a clue and things like that. So I do this kind of wide variety of things with that common thread in the middle, which is how do we use technologies to better communicate with one another, to share what we know with one another so that other people can learn from us, whether that's a professional network, a community of learning, or whether it's an amateur community of learning. If it's, who sings that song? I can't remember. If I tweet it, maybe somebody will answer. Or I really want to know how to fix this door in my house. I'm going to go look on WikiHow and watch a tutorial from a carpenter who's going to show me how to figure out why it squeaks, right? So that kind of, you're not paid to do it. You share it because you want to share it. So that's where most of my work sits. And I try to get MBA students to graduate being authentic marketers, like genuine people and not talking logos, so that when they go into these spaces, they actually interact with consumers in ways that are genuine and authentic to make sure that they learn what people actually need and want rather than tell them what they need and want, which is, it's difficult, but I've, graduated a couple of classes now. Maybe they're out there doing the right thing. So that's what I do. And I usually just say, stump the geek. What do you want to know about how social media works in marketing, in games for learning, how people learn online? What can I tell you about? Seriously, stump the geek. What can I tell you about? Yeah.
Well, I have a question about how much you have seen or sense the games for learning being incorporated by some of the government agencies in their efforts in OGI that I was talking about before. Have you seen any of that? Do you know?
Yeah, here's the problem. It's the name. Mm-hmm. The name damns it from the beginning. So, learning.
No.
Yeah. So games really work on intrinsic motivation. Fundamentally, we play games. We don't get paid unless we're athletes to play games. And so the best games, the ones we keep playing over and over again, are the ones that we get some kind of internal charge from. And as soon as somebody says, you will play this game for a purpose, it's no longer a game. It kind of undermines the fun. It takes the playfulness out of it. You see the same thing with serious games, which is what educators in K-12 like to call games in the classroom. And as soon as they call them serious games, it's like, well, no fun, no game. Yeah. And so kids kind of check out. And I think adults check out too. But done correctly, we can convey a lot of information and learning through gameplay. But if you can't call it that, it takes the fun out of it. And we've seen some industries do this too. There's a company called Mint. It's an online financial services company, and they have this really fun game on their website that looks kind of like a virtual board game where you increase your financial literacy by playing this game. And so if you answer questions correctly, your little dude moves on the spots around the board and you get little prizes and rewards. And you're there because you want to increase your financial literacy. And so in that case, it matches your motivation for being there anyway. And so that game design works. But a lot of educators especially think we can trick people into learning things by let's play a game, and we're all savvy enough to see through it. So it depends how it's presented, I guess, how effective it's going to be. Somebody else have a question?
Well, I have a comment.
Okay.
Question. So this month's Wired magazine was in my email, and I went home for lunch. There is a fascinating article about Minecraft and how teachers are proving reading competency of students that are unengaged by just assigning them to learn about read and write it, and learn about the technology associated with being better at that game. So, to your point.
Yeah, to tap into the motivation to be better at the game, and to show that learning these things actually increases your skill and what you want. As a kid, you want to be good at it.
And these teachers are assigning articles that have reading levels way above students that are not performing well, and they're finding it's a very satisfactory approach. So
Right.
I think you're on the right track. We may all be on that. Unrelated to that. So in your role as a faculty and engagement person, how in the world are you attracting faculty to this? What are you doing?
I tell them it'll make their lives better. You know?
Believe you?
Yeah, because I'm telling the truth.
Will.
Yeah,
But how? What do you do?
because anybody who teaches, your day's a lot better if you feel like your students actually got something out of the work that you did, and so your day is more satisfying. And so by helping faculty understand that by giving students a way to, and I don't like gamification as a term so much, but it works in some ways, to let students be more empowered to track and quantify their own progress in a course. By giving them more tools to do that and more feedback to do it, they then are more motivated to keep progressing through the course. It's when they don't have the feedback that they start to feel kind of flim-flammy and they're not sure how they're doing or whether they're learning what they're supposed to. And fundamentally, most of the technologies we have at our fingertips as teachers are quantifiable things. And so by showing faculty, hey, this actually helps your students figure out whether they've got it, so you don't have to tell them every time whether they've got it, can actually make it more enjoyable. And on your first point, I'll tell you, for my dissertation, which, wow, it was 4 years ago now, I've been PhD, it seems like yesterday I was doing that torture. I studied 150 different virtual worlds online and looked at how people learn in those spaces. And then I looked at how educators were using those spaces to try to teach other topics. So, faculty going into Minecraft or World of Warcraft or something like that and trying to teach. And what I found was that to be successful in teaching through one of these games or in one of these worlds, whatever your learning objective was, it had to complement the goals of the game. It couldn't conflict with it. So if you're a foreign language teacher and you've got a guild in World of Warcraft and you're playing the game and trying to fight off the horde, and you're speaking Chinese with these non-Chinese speakers, they will be more motivated to understand what you're telling them because it means they'll play the game better. It complements what they want to accomplish in the game. But if you try to conflict with it, I know there's goblins, but let's all sit down in this glade and practice Chinese. It doesn't work. It seems like a duh, but it took me 4 years of research to figure that out. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think I can answer part of that because I only know you as IntelliGirl. And my toys are texts.
Hey, yeah.
And so, I think that's a place where we disseminate our research via Twitter to get that out to a larger group. And my question is related back to the very first presentation on Gamergate and the response of this whole gaming community around a young woman who's writing sort of feminist literature around games. So, any insights you have on that, I'd really love to know.
Yeah, it's interesting that the demographics that we assume for gamers are really incorrect. The average daily electronic game player right now is a 37-year-old woman.
Stay-at-home mom.
Stay-at-home mom.
That's what
Really?
And it's a casual game on her phone or on her tablet. Yeah, yeah.
Who'd ever have thought?
There are far more people playing Bejeweled and Candy Crush than there are any first-person shooter added together. And so I think the conversation and the discourse about it has to catch up with the reality. And there are a lot of people who are entrenched in that perceived reality that games are dude things and they're aggressive and they make children aggressive, and there's reasons why they're entrenched in that narrative, but it's not the reality of the narrative. But then, of course, this is the burden that we all face if we do technology, is that we have to constantly keep up with it. So I'm kind of waiting for the conversations to catch up with that, so that won't even be an issue. It doesn't matter whether you're a man or a woman playing the game, talking about the game, unless that's what you're talking about, And so I think hopefully we'll see less of it, but again, we got to wait for the narrative to catch up, the reality to catch up. Mm-hmm.
I'm curious what you think about technology in the classroom, because I see one strand where people are like, oh, we're going to have a classroom Twitter account and we're going to live tweet and this and that. And then there's this other strand that's like, oh, social media is bad in the classroom and put your laptops away because you can't multitask and the research says da-da-da-da. And so, and I'm a PhD student and I'm just like starting out teaching, and I'm like, I want to embrace technology and I want to do polling and tweeting and this and that, but, there's all this research.
Yeah. Research on both sides, right? I've been saying for about 10 years, I want to get on my arm tattooed, pedagogy first, technology second. And when somebody says, how do I use Second Life in my classroom? That's really simple, How do I use Twitter in my class? I just say, why? Why do you want to do it? What learning objective do you want to accomplish that you think that technology is going to help you accomplish that you can't do the way you're doing it now? So I teach social media marketing. I can't really justify close your laptops, turn off your phones, and everything else. So, the way I get around it is, my rule is, if your phone rings, I get to answer it. And if my phone rings, they get to answer it, right? So we try to minimize the disruptive power of technologies. But Clay Shirky, this guy who's one of the loudest technology kind of sociologist, anthropologist guys, just recently announced that he was having a no-tech policy in his classroom at MIT. Yeah. I don't remember where he teaches now, which was this huge deal because he said, the students were self-distracting. It was like this thing on their desktop that it was so difficult to look away from.
You must be really boring, dude.
Yeah, well, so that's one approach. That's one approach that I tell faculty is, maybe it's a commentary on what you're doing in class. Maybe you need to be more active. Maybe you don't just talk at them all the time, and then they won't be distracted. But I also ask them, how often do you bring your phone or your pad or your laptop to a meeting? And how often do you check your email while you're in the meeting? Are you contributing to that meeting? Are you a super person and your students aren't? If you can do it, where's the double standard? Why is it there? So my solution, and this is just mine, and it's with my topic, it works, is I put them to use. Yeah. So I ask, hey, you over there, you look this up, and you've got a laptop, you look that up, and I want you to answer this question for us and tell us what's going on with this. And so I put them to work with them, and then they know that if they're looking at lingerie while sitting in the front row of a tiered classroom in an MBA program last spring, that it's going to come back on them because they'll miss something and their peers will police it too. They're getting better about it. But, I also walk around and I don't police it, but I go, is that helping you learn this? If it is, tell me how, because I'm interested in lingerie shopping and how it helps us learn social media marketing. Does this company have a good campaign? No. Okay. Well, then maybe you're just self-distracting, And I guess I'm transparent about it too, and I tell them it happens to me. So, let's learn about it. Let's do it together. I don't know if it would work in every classroom, but that's my approach, and that's what I kind of try to help faculty do. Just kind of be transparent about it. Canvas is a really interesting thing in my life right now. Yeah. Because Kelly has an online MBA program that's been in its own LMS now for 6 years, forever, yeah. And it's my job to get faculty, without going crazy, to move into Canvas when they've been teaching an Angel, not even on course, an Angel for years. And these are faculty who have been teaching the same online courses for years and can literally click a button and copy their course for the next semester. So they haven't had to redesign their course. They haven't had to explore new tools. And so it's my job to be really excited with them and say, hey, this new thing, this is great. This is going to make you change the way you teach, even if you don't want to. Yeah, okay. And it's going to make you better. Really, it'll make you better, So the pink hair helps with the enthusiasm.
Well,
but
the color on the other side, maybe.
Yeah, really. Yeah. So I'm,
Oh, we mentioned also using technology in the classroom. It also makes the teacher's life easier. If the tech you're using is really engaged, like some of the things that I've done with, because I teach technology, it's the same issue as, like, I can't tell my students when to bring their tech.
Yeah.
Crazy. I'm not bringing it. But if some of the projects that we do with them, they feel more empowered by understanding where they're in the classroom. They tend to hassle you less. You could share that with other faculty. Well, your students won't bother you as much.
Yeah, a couple of years ago, I actually, with the help of an organization in the UK called JISC, we developed a rubric for getting up to speed on a technology as a faculty member. So if you want to evaluate a new tool for use in your classroom, here's a 5-step process to do it very quickly so that you could become quickly literate enough to evaluate the tool, to know where it would fit or know that it wouldn't fit. Because that's the biggest challenge, is if you're going to introduce a technology, you've got to know it well enough to integrate it well enough so the technology disappears. I know I mentioned Shirky before, but he's got this great quote that says, technology becomes socially interesting when it becomes technologically boring. So you can't let the technology be what you're talking about. It's whatever you're doing with it, and you've got to have a certain level of comfort with it to get to that point. I'm IntelliGirl everywhere because I was Sarah Smith before I got married. Get a username with Sarah Smith. S. Smith is taken all over the place, was 10 years ago. So I know we're over time, but if I can answer any more questions, just Google me. You'll find me all over the place. I'm always happy to chat and answer questions and hear cool ideas. So, thank you.